Welcome back to the program. Remember, this is the Street Talk program coming on your screens every Mondays from 8:15 p.m. In the show today is Miss Freni Joey, program officer at the Media Focus on Africa, and we are talking about women and leadership, so stay tuned to the program. Freni, tell me about your target with the program.
Well, our target is very ambitious because we hope that we will have Kenyans being confident enough to elect women, such that we'll end up with a parliament where we have 50% women and 50% men, you know. So that's our ambition, and we hope that this is going to have a trickle effect at the county assemblies, which is actually our main focus.
The county assemblies in Kenya? Yes,
the county assemblies in Kenya is our main focus. So we also hope that we also have 50% of women at the county assemblies and 50% men, right. You know, so that we can be like, you know, Rwanda, for example, is a country that's managed to have half of its parliament women and men. So we are very ambitious. We hope we can get to a level where it's not just in the elective positions where we have men and women equally represented, but at all levels of leadership. So it's a very ambitious project.
All right. So now that we want this gender parity and we want to really bring women on board, are you also talking to men to support women get to these positions?
Indeed, we are talking to men. From next year, January, we are going to have a program on several radio shows where we will be bringing these women on board so they can talk to their voters, especially the male ones, you know, and ask them to cast their vote for the women leaders. So we have to bring men on board because, like I said, we want a society that is inclusive. So men have to believe in women as leaders, and they already do. It's not that they don't. It's just that maybe sometimes they feel too shy to cast a vote for a woman. But I want to tell you that we have men on board, and actually many of my colleagues on this program are men, and I wish they were here with me. You could see their passion and belief in a society that gives women an equal chance. So we are bringing men on board. We are talking to them through our radio programs, and even when we do community forums, because a lot of times we travel down to the counties at Mombasa, Kisumu, and we talk to everyone, and we have so many men in our meetings, and these men will stand up and tell you, yes, we want our women, we want our daughters, our wives, our mothers to become leaders because they deserve to have a chance. But we need to translate this talk into real action, which is vote for a woman who you believe is a good leader.
And again, Freni, in as much as we are fighting to have women in leadership positions, there have always been this perception that women are their own enemies. Do you think, or have you observed that women support their fellow women to rise up to these leadership positions?
That's a tough one for me. I've heard of that phrase so many times. Women are their own enemies. Many times I have seen situations where women support other women. I'll give you an example of our partner organization, FIDA Kenya. You know, it's Federation of Women Lawyers. And this is a group of women professionals who use their professional legal expertise to support women in every scenario. So whether it's women who are having problems in the family, or women who are having, problems to do with, unfortunately, gender-based violence, which is common in Kenya. So you see a lot of women organizations supporting other women, but you also see a lot of individual women supporting other women, But there might be a few isolated incidences that you might find that women are not doing the right thing to support other women, but I think it will be very unfair to make a general statement saying that women are their own worst enemies. It's a very unfair general statement. I think we need to treat each case differently.
Depending on the context.
Yes, and maybe sometimes the reason this statement is thrown around recklessly is because maybe when we have a woman vying for a certain position, then people say that other women have not voted for her. For example, we had Honorable Martha Karua vying for the presidency a few years ago, and people say, oh, but the women didn't vote for her. But you have to look at the society in a bigger picture.
All right.
Because women are part of this society, and as you understand that the Kenyan society or community is one that has over the years had a very male kind of thinking.
Sure.
We see men as leaders, men as lawyers, men as engineers, men as headmasters, you know. So even our girls are growing up thinking that men are the leaders, men are the headmasters, men are the principals, men are the drivers, you know. Even simple things like driving, if you see a female matatu driver, you'll be like, oh, that's nice, you know, that's unique. So I think that statement a lot of times is thrown around a bit recklessly and not well thought out. So I wouldn't, you know, happily use that safely that women are their own worst enemies. I think attitudes towards women are the worst enemy of women. And the attitudes. And these are the attitudes that we have to change. And these are attitudes that anyone can have. A man can have that attitude, a woman can have that attitude, young people can have that attitude, older people can have that attitude. So I think it's the attitude that we need to fight. We don't need to fight a section and, you know, call that section women.
Sure. Don't you think that women have also not taken that I don't know how to call it, but let's say taken that the first step to rise up into this leadership position? They've also contributed to this perception that it's only men who can.
Well, I think in a lot of women work very hard to get into these positions.
Right.
And with my experience in this Media Focus in Africa project is that these women have a very difficult time.
Right.
I'll share with you some of the experiences that these women have told me, you know, when I talk to them and when we sit down to have these discussions. They tell me, for example, if a woman is vying for probably member of county assembly or an MP, they need finances. And traditionally in our community, men are in charge of the family. Men are head of the family.
Sure.
Men have the final say about family property. So if a woman needs to raise finances for her campaigns, she has to consult the husband. And the husband can say yes or no.
Sure.
And unfortunately, in this women's case, some of the husbands say no. So how are you going to run your campaigns when you don't have money? I'll give you another example that the women we're working with have shared with me. When you throw yourself into politics, it is an extremely competitive and aggressive race to get elected.
Sure.
You need to spend a lot of time away from your family to be out there, you know, campaigning and going for meetings and doing fundraisings and appearing on the media. And still these women come from families where the man is the head of the family. And if your husband says, you cannot leave me with the children to go out roaming,
Sure.
the woman has no chance. Another sad example that one of the women shared with me is that they even had to split with the husband.
Wow.
And she has to take custody of the children because the children are still very young and they need their mother around. So it's even a heavier burden for the woman when you've already split it with your husband, who was giving you a lot of emotional, moral, psychological and financial support, and now you have the children on your own.
So
and you have your
the time she showed her interest for politics.
Yes. And the husband couldn't, you know, approve of it. They had to separate, and she had to stay with the kids, which meant, you know, more work for her, because if you're a single parent, it's more work on you financially and even supporting the kids. So can you understand some of the circumstances that make it a bit more steep for women to climb? So sometimes I feel like women have a steeper hill to climb when they have to get into elective positions compared to men.
Sure.
Because naturally a man will decide, I am going to become an MP, and they don't have to consult their
Sure.
wife. A woman sometimes even has to consult the entire village, the elders of the village. I have another example from the women we've been working with. The husband says, yes, my wife, I support you, go for it, you're my woman of power. But then the other family members will be like, this woman is controlling our son. This, you know. So these are cultural issues that are very deep, that are very challenging to deal with. So when we say that women are not taking up the chance, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It's not just legally, it sounds very okay to say that women should take up the chance.
Sure.
But it's not just the legal provision that makes it easy for women to take up the chance. The cultural background, the family background, the community background has a lot of influence. So as much as we have the law on paper, we have to think of the general environment in which a woman operates.
All right. And thank you so much for that, Freni. And still talking on the experiences, apart from the few selected cases that you've just stated, what's your general view of these women? Do they tell you that they have support of their husbands or even of their extended family members?
The women I'm working with, or we are working with as Media Focus in Africa and FIDA Kenya, come from different backgrounds.
All right.
Some of them come from a background of no support. Like some of their families will put them aside because culturally it is not right for a woman to be out late in the night campaigning, traveling. For example, the women on this program now have spent 3 days in Eldoret town for a training. In some communities, it is not acceptable for a woman to stay out of her husband's house for so many nights. Where is she?
Are these communities you're mentioning, are they the communities in the marginalized regions?
No, you'll be surprised. These are not the communities that we consider marginalized.
Oh.
For example, we consider the Pokots,
Sure.
the Maasais, and the Samburus marginalized. But these are communities that we might find very cosmopolitan. For example, the Luya community, the Luo community, the Kikuyu community. These are the communities that in Kenya are seen to be well advanced compared to the ones I just mentioned, the Samburus and the Pokots. So it's got nothing to do with a marginalized community or an advanced community, if we can use that kind of language to differentiate. It's about attitudes. It's about traditions and cultures that are not friendly to women. And attitudes, for me, is the biggest problem, because sometimes you find that some of these women who are having a difficult time come from backgrounds where people are well educated, people are exposed, and you might think that people who are highly educated and exposed will not have a problem with a woman being a leader. But that's not the case. So it's not even your level of education or exposure. It's an attitude, and sometimes it even goes down to character. So let's be people who are open-minded, people who give others a chance, people who give people who are different from us a chance. I don't have to be like you to like you.
Sure.
I just have to respect you because you are a human being and you deserve to have your rights respected.
Sure.
I believe this is the kind of attitude that will allow us to give everyone an equal chance, whether they're a woman, whether they are disabled, whether they're a person living with disabilities, whether they're a person living with any form of difference that makes them prone to discrimination.
Right.
I believe everyone deserves a chance. And in this particular project, we are focusing on giving women an equal chance in leadership.
And Ms. Freni, from where you sit as the program officer of Media Focus on Africa, what's your evaluation of next year's general election? Do you think many women are now going to stand up and say that we are also going for these leadership positions as compared to the last general elections?
Well, I will only comment about the counties where we are working in, because that's where I have first-hand information, and I wouldn't want to generalize it to the rest of Kenya. Looking at the counties where we're working in, West Pokot and Nandi County and Trans Nzoia County, I can tell you that yes, more women are now coming out more bold because of programs like this, and they're feeling like they have support. The women feel like someone believes in us, and I believe everyone needs someone to believe in them.
Sure.
If nobody believes in you, if everyone is putting you down, you will keep trying, but it will be too difficult.
Sure.
But if someone comes and tells you, yes, you can do it, in the words of Barack Obama,
Sure.
yes, you can. If someone gives you that support, if someone comes and gives you a push, you feel stronger.
Sure.
And you feel like, yes, the journey is long, but with one or two hands supporting me, I can get there. And that's the feeling these women have because of this project that we are working on, because we are training them on how to make use of the media, how to use their social media accounts for their campaigns, how to reach out to their voters.
Sure.
So they feel very much supported, and they're coming out, and there are even more women who did not make it onto the program, because it's highly competitive and
Sure.
not everyone can make it in. Even the ones who did not make it are still calling us and asking us, when are you coming for the next round of training, so that we can also apply and get absorbed into the program. So from the counties where we're working with, yes, more women are motivated, more women are in politics, and more women are believing in themselves, but also believing that they have something to offer this country.
All right. Frini, how many women have you people trained in the program so far?
So far, we have about 96 women. Yes.
That you've trained?
Yes, that we've already trained.
Ah.
Yes.
And what's your target?
We were targeting 100, so we are not so much off the target, because it's a competitive process.
Right.
Some people, because of one thing or the other, have to drop out. Not maybe drop out is not the right word, but some people have to be excluded.
All right.
Yeah.
Your final word as we wind up the program?
Well, I believe that everyone deserves a chance.
All right.
And particularly women in Kenya, because for a long time, women in Kenya have struggled so much to catch up with men. And we don't want to just catch up. We want to be part and parcel of conversations that are building this country. Women need to be parts and parcel of processes that are moving this country forward. Women need to contribute when people are talking about finance, when people are talking about the budget, when people are talking about education, when people are talking about things that matter to this country, when decisions are being made. I believe everyone's voice should be heard and can be heard. And why should women's voices and contributions be excluded? And the only way to include women in decision making at a high level in government is voting a woman. Everyone should use their democratic right to make a change. You've got a voter's card. Look around and see who is the woman leader who is inspiring you, who is the woman leader who is promising you a better Kenya, who is the woman leader who is promising you better legislation when it comes to things that matter like education, healthcare. Vote in a woman who stands for equal rights for everyone. And one thing I just want to make it clear is that women are not being voted in to represent women issues. Women are being voted in to represent Kenyans.
Thank you so much, Ms. Frini Joey, the Program Officer, Media Focus on Africa. Of course, Media Focus on Africa, in collaboration with the FIDA Kenya, has rolled out a program that is training women aspirants in some counties in Kenya. I've been your host, Regina Orlando, and thank you so much for staying tuned to Street Talk. Until next Monday, God bless you. Thank you so much.